Hello, welcome back to Learn It from a Layman. I'm Carl Christensen. I'm back with Matt and Cameron and Johnny. So we've got most of the crew. Tim is off doing what Tim does, which is, things that we don't need to concern ourselves with. But today we're going to be discussing hotels. We have on our podcast here, which I think it's come up in the past. Cameron is currently a front desk manager at a chain hotel in the United States. I believe your hotel is also worldwide, if I'm not mistaken, right, Cameron?
The parent company is worldwide.
Parent companies worldwide. There we go. Okay, so we've got some hotel knowledge here, and I know that I, for one, and I believe most of our listeners have in the past stayed at hotels, potentially had questions and or experiences at hotels that are some good experiences, some less good experiences. So we would like to get a little bit of inside information and some just general information from someone that is in the know with hotels about just what happens there and what our options are. So let's start with a little bit about just, I guess, generic. So Cameron, you've worked at, I believe, 2 or 3 different hotels, right?
I've worked at 2 resorts. One, what is it called?
I don't know. Is that rhetorical?
Name for the brand. A hotel that has a restaurant in it, and then I've worked at just like a business hotel, just like
okay. So I guess the first question, I know a lot of people are, they how full are hotels on, a usual weekday and or weekend? What does occupancy get up to?
It depends on your hotel.
So let's say a resort. So I believe you worked in Park City, Utah for a little while.
I did.
Are those resorts pretty full usually?
Yes. Park City usually gets really full. Unless you have like a worldwide pandemic, and then that
things change.
Drive down business. The government had to save Marriott because it was too big to fail. So,
I guess so. Kind of a question that I would have, rather than how full are hotels? What are the major factors that influence whether or not you're going to be able to find a room at a given time? I'm sure there's some seasonal aspects, but what are the factors that I should consider if I really want to stay somewhere and really want to find vacancy?
So it definitely, what Matt was saying, seasonal aspects definitely play into where you go to what you're going to find. Also, it depends on the type of hotel that you're going to go visit. Like if you are staying at a hotel that caters more to corporate and business travelers, it's going to be busier during the weekdays and cheaper on the weekends. So, I mean, you just have to kind of look at what the what demographic it caters to. So, like my current hotel caters both to families and the business traveler. So we fill up on the weekend. So yesterday, today, and tomorrow Thursday, yesterday, and today we're completely sold out at the hotel. But then come Sunday, we're going to be probably about 60%. And then we slowly build back up to the week to being sold out. So that's kind of our current cycle. And that will change a little bit after school starts. After Labor Day, it starts to slow down a bit. So,
yeah, can you elaborate on the seasonal aspects as well?
So because we cater more to families, we fill up a whole lot more during the summer. We have 122 rooms at our hotel, and the other day we turned over 90 of those 22 rooms. So we had a lot of people either staying with us 2 or 3 days or one night, and they all kind of ended at the same time, and we had to clean all those rooms and get them reset for the sold out night that was going to happen that day. So that puts a lot of pressure on our housekeepers, that they have to clean more rooms. They have to be super fast, things like that. So
So when you say completely sold out, does that literally mean 100% occupancy, or do you keep like a room, like let's say a high power like corporate official from your hotel wants to stay at that hotel, but it's sold out? Is there a room available for them, or is it like 100% all the rooms are taken?
That will depend on your management company, how they want to do that. Also, it will depend on your hotel brand. So Marriott, if you're the top tier member at a Marriott, you are guaranteed a room at whatever hotel you book out. Even if they're completely sold out, they will bump someone else out of the hotel to give that top tier member a room, and that's in the contract. So, I mean, obviously they're taking care of their guests that are spending 100+ nights a year at the hotel. So, I mean, obviously you want to keep them happy because they bring you a lot of business. So, right. I mean, there's sense to it, and most hotel companies are franchised, so the owners own probably one or two hotels in the area, so they can usually, depending on what's going on, send one of them to a sister property and not really lose the revenue in the larger aspect of it.
Got it. Okay.
Can I ask one more seasonal question? You mentioned a family-centric hotel. Makes sense that they would be more full on things like summers, and I imagine holiday season as well is probably pretty busy. What about the hotels that cater to the business clientele? Are there seasonal effects to that as well, other than just weekday versus weekend?
Yeah, weekday versus weekend, and then major holidays, you're going to see a decline on your business travelers. So like Christmas, the hotel that I worked at before this one was a much more business-centric hotel. So we were fairly full. We were averaging about 86% a night. And then we had Christmas that week, and we were 20 to 30% occupied.
So does that mean as a family dude, could I get a better rate at a business hotel during the holidays?
Yeah, you could get a better, generally a better rate, because the hotel wants the business, so they're going to drop their rates. So you're going to get probably a little bit nicer hotel. I mean, you also have to understand a business-centric hotel, it caters a little bit different. So yes, you'll probably get a breakfast, but it's not as probably big of a breakfast or as many options as a family-centric, or you'll be paying for the breakfast, like a la carte, because most business travelers, they get, I can't think of the name.
You get per diem or something.
Yeah, per diem. And so they're going to spend, $10, $20 at your hotel buying dinner and buying breakfasts, during the day.
That was actually going to be my next question when we talk about family-centric versus business-centric hotels. What can you talk about some of the differences there?
So family-centric, you're usually going to have a complimentary breakfast. Depending on the type of the hotel, it'll range from, let's say, like a Motel 6, you're going to get donuts and juice, to let's say like a Holiday Inn Express, where you're going to get like a full buffet. So it just kind of depends on the hotel brand, what they're going to provide to you.
Yeah. Any other differences other than free food? In general, I mean, obviously, it varies chain to chain, but
it varies from chain to chain. The food options are going to change a little bit. Family centric generally is going to have a pool. Depending on the hotel, they might have family hours first a bit, and then they'll have like adult hours for a little bit after that, just so adults can enjoy the pool as well, not be overrun by tons of children. So I mean, but that's going to be really per hotel how they want to do that. So
do all hotels, now most hotels I've stayed in have gyms, so is this also like do business hotels kind of specialize in nicer gyms? or is that also just dependent more on the chain than the clientele?
Chain and clientele, it makes a huge thing about that. There are some hotels that are specific to the exercise junkie, to where the general manager or the lead fitness person, they'll actually have a lead fitness person at the hotel lead people in a group like exercise activity, things like that. So they'll have a much more setup for people to go be healthy. They'll have a more health food conscious things. So, I mean, definitely. And that's the thing about hotels. It's very dependent on the brand. So you have different brands of hotels. There's specific hotels that will cater specifically to long-term stays. So they're just designed to accommodate individuals or families for extended periods of time. So a couple examples of those would be through several different brands, would be like Hilton Home to Suites, Staybridge, Candlewood, those several different brands there. They're all Marriott. Let me get Marriott's TownePlace Suites. All are catered to extended stays. So they will have like a full kitchen where you can cook food, generally 1 or 2 bedrooms for their guests who are staying, just so they can be more comfortable, because you're staying there usually a week or longer.
Right. So most stays at most hotels, I guess you said you stayed at resorts. I'd imagine resorts by and large are also kind of accustomed to having people stay, up to a week or 2 weeks or whatever, whereas your smaller chain hotels are looking more at like the 1 or 2 night stays. What is the longest stay that you've heard of or you've seen personally?
I've seen personally?
Yeah.
I had a guest stay at one of the hotels that I worked at I believe he was there for about 3 years.
Whoa,
3 years.
That's a long time.
Yeah, he worked.
Do you start getting discounts at that point? Do you get like a mascot costume? Do you get a sign to spin out front? Like, how does that work?
He had a very good discount that we gave him, and the company that he worked for, which is probably one of the world's largest companies, paid for everything.
So this was business travel?
No, he's stationed here, but the business paid for him because he.
Wow.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
Yeah. So he had a living stipend in his contract with them. So they paid for him to be there.
That's crazy.
There's I don't know. There's something to be said for that, because you have your place where you live and somebody else cleans it every day and takes care of it for you. And,
generally with term stays, you clean it once a week.
Oh, yeah.
Can they request more frequently? Is that something that's also
more frequently? Say you have someone coming to visit you. Obviously, sometimes you'll request to have it tidied up and things like that. The downside to guests staying at your hotel for very long periods of times like that, you often, after they depart, you have to put out the room for a week or two to get it back up to the standards of all the other rooms, because you have to go through and make sure like the dresser looks right, fix any nicks and dings that happen to it. There's
deep cleaning and stuff.
The deep cleaning. I mean, it's just like if you moved out of an apartment for a year. I mean, you need to shampoo all the carpets, touch up all the walls, repaint. It's a very labor intensive.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. Hey, so I guess along those lines, this is a perfect time to ask about. So, does the hotel, and it might even depend on hotel per hotel, is there like a standard at which, like, okay, beds are good for 3 years, and then we toss them out and get new ones? How often do they get new TVs or new dressers or upgrade a bathroom or something like that?
So, a hotel, the typical lifespan of a room for most hotels is about 8 to 10 years. So when the economy is going well and everything is doing well, about every 8 to 10 years, the parent company will make the property company update their rooms so they look new and nice for all the guests, or they could lose their flag. And the flag is the brand, whatever brand they are.
Okay. So that's when it's required to do like a whole, a renovation of a room. If let's say you get a couple customers that come in and complain about the bed in room 120 or something like that, is there any point at which, okay, room 120, the bed is garbage, we need to chuck that and get a new one? Does that happen?
That does happen. So that's one of the reasons why management monitors complaints very closely. If you have a good management, I would say that good management monitors complaints very well, a lot, is then they're going to be like, oh, this room has lots of complaints about this bed, and generally then they'll go up and lay on the bed and be like, yeah, this is a really uncomfortable bed. How much money do we have in the budget to get a new one? Because beds aren't necessarily cheap. So,
right.
Yeah, we've had a TV stolen out of our hotel, which, just so you know, don't steal TVs out of hotels.
They're not like the soap, is what you're saying. You can't just, you take a little soap with you when you go. Don't take the TV as well.
Yeah, don't take the TV, but for multiple reasons. For one, we have your credit card, so we can usually charge you for the new TV. And two, the TVs in hotels are designed specifically to only work at a hotel. So it doesn't make sense to steal a hotel.
Along those lines, Cameron, what things are you safe putting in your bag when you're leaving a hotel? And what things should you not touch?
I don't know if you've ever watched the Friends episode where Ross talks about what's okay to take from the hotel and what's not okay to take from the hotel.
No, I haven't, but that sounds hilarious.
It is a very hilarious episode. So
the rising generation doesn't know what Friends is.
Oh, that's sad. But anyway, so they go to a definite extreme on it, whereas you can't take the remote, but you could take the batteries out of the remote. Now, I'm going to say don't take the batteries out of the remote unless you really want to, kind of annoy the hotel. Also, that's why in most hotels they actually have a little screw in the remote cover, probably due to Friends. Don't bulbs. That's also one that they did in that episode. Please don't do that.
Don't take what? One more time.
The light bulb.
Oh. Oh my gosh. Are those the types of things? So okay, so you're not supposed to take light bulbs and remote batteries.
Don't
remote.
Take. Yes, I suppose you could take the roll of TP, but that just seems a little cheap. I mean, most hotels aren't putting Charmin in there anyway. So
I assume we're also not supposed to take the towels.
Yes. Depending on the hotel that you stay at, there will actually be a list on the door what you'll be charged for if you take something or it's ruined.
And as you pointed out, they have your credit card. Do you really want to risk that over, a couple batteries or whatever?
A very exfoliating towel.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, obviously there are standards of quality, and I know hotels do a good job of keeping things clean, but come on, that towel's been around for a while.
It's been around for a while.
Why would you steal that? I wouldn't. But whatever.
Funny thing is, we've had people steal washcloths or just take it not thinking from other hotels, and then they've showed up at our hotel. So most hotel brands, if you look at the tags on the hotel, will actually have the hotel brand's name and picture on the towel or sheet, things like that.
So they know where you guys know where things came from or whatever.
Yeah, so we've gotten random things. We've gotten some like couple Marriott hand towels or washcloths or Hyatt. It's just funny, like just little things pop up like that. So
sure. Okay,
What
so a couple
about-
other questions. Matt
You-
already.
you replace the towels, like because it gets to a certain point and you have to replace a towel because it's not plush and nice anymore. As
Right.
long as you get the stock and there's not a global pandemic which has depleted everything because no one can work. So
Right.
That's a side effect of all of this that I hadn't considered. My hotel towel might be less fluffy.
probably not be as fluffy because it's not just the hotel industry, it's most industries, hospital, restaurant, they can't get a lot of their name brand stuff right now just because people can't, the workers that they bought it from aren't there making it, so everything is
Well,
really down.
I imagine, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but as we record this in August 2021, I imagine we're coming out of that now, right?
No, it's hitting us right now because they've gone through all their stock that they had overstock. So now it's trying to get the stock back up.
Okay, so you had a reserve and things were actually better before. And
Yeah. You could get stuff. The problem is the management companies wouldn't let you buy stuff because you had no money coming in.
Okay.
So one other question, kind of along the same lines of what you can and can't take, but well, okay, not quite. But you mentioned that you replace towels sometimes, unless there's a pandemic and you don't have towels. But what are the cleanliness standards? So the housekeepers have like a checklist that they go through to make sure that things are clean.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, there's definitely a checklist. Every brand has their own brand standard of cleaning. Since the pandemic, all brand standards have been super inflated for cleaning to where we're using, you sanitize. We are required to sanitize all hard surfaces. Also, because of that, we were told to take out all products like the notepad and pens. We had to take those out. Stuff like that. Just anything that someone could touch and pass something on, we just had to remove out of the rooms. So
I imagine that as we're recording this in August 2021, we're maybe coming out of that. Is that right?
Well, no.
No. Okay.
Our lovely Delta variant that's inflating pretty high is we've gotten a couple of emails that strongly suggest that we reinforce our mask policies and things like that we were able to be more lenient on. Now we're supposed to button them back down, and they're not requiring it yet, but it's strongly suggested.
Yeah. Well, I know. I imagine there's. I don't know about. I don't know that I want to go there, but I mean, I imagine it's in the best interest of the hotel, obviously, from both a moral, ethical, and also business standpoint, to not have people getting ill.
It definitely is.
Is that something that you guys have had? I don't know if they would report it to you. Maybe it's more of a chain issue. Let's say someone does get sick at your hotel. Do you get a report about that? Do you get any information about, oh yeah, actually we've become a COVID hotspot and therefore, or do you get any updates on if someone gets chickenpox at your hotel or anything like that?
Generally not that. Legally, when COVID first happened, if someone came to us and told us that they had COVID, we were supposed to keep them in that room for a week.
Did that happen?
They couldn't leave.
They couldn't leave. They were supposed to stay there.
So even if they only had like a one night stay, you had to keep them there for a week.
If they came up and told us that they were positive for COVID, they would stay in the room.
Because you couldn't make them you wouldn't release them to travel because it wouldn't be safe for them or anyone else with whom they would be traveling.
Because that's what causes the pandemic. If people passing around.
Who fronts the cost for that?
Yes, the government eventually fronts the cost for that.
Okay. But yeah, so this isn't something that you can charge the person for.
Yeah, because it's a health safety thing. You can't.
Right. And it's not really fair for the hotel to bear the cost because it's a government mandate. So, no, that makes sense. So, really, the American people bear the burden.
Yeah, the American people. Or
this pandemic sucks.
Oh, it's terrible.
Yeah. As we record this in August 2021, and everyone knows this by now. But
right. 18 months in, we've made this amazing discovery that the pandemic is crappy.
It is crap. I'm just saying, there's things like that are required. I mean, if it is a highly infectious disease and they let us know, we would probably have to quarantine them in the room. Or after they left, we were supposed to hire a hazmat crew also that was going to be paid by the government to go in and clean the room. So, I mean, there was a lot of protocols that came out. And
if I can ask, can you talk about some of the other kind of, some of the laws that a hotel is required to abide by, not just, pandemic related and over the last year and a half, but, what are some of a hotel's legal obligations and what are some of a guest's legal obligations?
So depending on your state, which I think it's pretty similar in most states, if you stay at a hotel 30 days or longer, you're considered a resident. So then you're not paying a state tax and a transient tax. Most people don't understand that when you stay at a hotel, you pay two different taxes. The transient tax basically is mandated by the state for all in hotel type rooms. That goes towards their budget of promoting the state. Basically, that's where it goes to bring in people, to bring in tourism and stuff like that.
So that is interesting because then I don't think there are probably a lot of people out there booking hotels for 4 weeks. But if you push it a couple more days, you're going to see one of the taxes fall off.
Yeah. So if you stay 30 days or longer, all those taxes that you paid will fall off. So in essence, if you're staying 28 days, it might be cheaper for you to spend 2 more days there and not pay all that money in taxes.
Oh, so you get the taxes back or you never pay them at all. That cost just goes away. It's not like it stops after a certain point. It's like you just never pay it. Okay, wow. Huh. All right. So I'm going to be booking 31-day stays from now on. Now, I'm sorry, you said you're considered a resident. Now, I assume that's like just for the purposes of that tax. That doesn't mean like your state of legal residence changes or anything. And like I can now vote there, does it?
That depends on the state as well. So technically, depending on the state, if you live there 30 days or some have it, if you live there 90 days, you are a resident, even if you're just staying there and they want you to get a license there and stuff like that. So it really depends on the state. There could potentially require you to do things like that to stay legal.
Okay. Now, is that same with
states have different residency laws depending on
every state?
Yeah, I'm sure that's true.
The state. I know when I lived in Ohio for 2 years, but I was planning on coming back to Utah. After 90 days, I was pulled over for speeding. Anyway, the officer told me, well, how long have you been here? And I was like, oh, I've been here I'm going back to Utah here. He's like, well, you've been here 90 days. You really should have an Ohio driver's license now. Just little things like that, just random.
Yeah, another example is when I was in medical school in Alabama, I couldn't get that. So I was considered like an Alabama resident because I lived there. But I wasn't able to get in-state tuition because I was only there for school and I wasn't there working. So there's like a lot of different laws based on residency in the state that you're in, and also why you're trying to claim residency in that state as well. So I think it's pretty complicated from state to state.
It is definitely complicated. I did, though, vote in Ohio during the election during my stay there. So I filled out and voted as an Ohio resident to help sway the vote.
Well, this is a good time then, I think, to also just take a quick aside before we hit a couple more hotel questions and sign off here is just like I said, in a lot of our podcasts, we like to do kind of a listener update. We've got some faithful listeners, some that bop in for, say, quantum physics. But right now we have, our listener base is growing exponentially. So across the world, but specifically we've got a lot of listeners in India. So thank you to them, and the UK, across Europe. And we've mentioned in former podcasts across all 50 states. So especially though in Texas, California, Illinois, and New York. Cameron, your Ohio crew, they're doing all right. We get some listeners from Ohio as well. But yeah, let's encourage your friends in, say, South Dakota and West Virginia to jump on board. They seem a bit hesitant about our podcast. So Alabama as well,
I'm honestly
Johnny.
a bit hesitant about our podcast.
Yeah, Johnny, your medical crew back in Alabama, they're not pulling their weight either this month, at least. So they need to get on the boat, and
I'll start cracking the whip.
But yeah, anyway, that's we're grateful for those that tune into our podcast. We try to bring lots of interesting facts. We know a lot of you have come via physics podcasts and found us. There'll be more physics in the future, but hotels seem to be very relevant and very mass appeal podcast that like I said, we've got some inside information with Cameron. So we're going to jump a couple more questions before we jump off here. So Cameron, we were talking about laws. You've mentioned tax laws, but what I want to know is lawlessness here. So I know that you don't work in a shady area. I don't believe any of the hotels you've worked in are really shady areas, but hotels are sometimes, people associate those with kind of criminal behavior in some areas. How often do you call the cops, and what are some things that you've seen criminal wise?
So the hotel that I previously worked at before this one was frequented often by ladies of the evening.
Oh my. Okay. For our younger audience, we won't explain that.
Also, the hotel, if we remember back, is a business-centric hotel.
Okay, right.
And we live in a state where prostitution is illegal, but they never said they were prostitutes or anything like that. They technically would have to say that or really give a strong indication for us to do something about it. But when a young woman shows up to the hotel in a much more scantily clad outfit than is normal and attends to a room that with a single gentleman in it and then leaves an hour and a half, 2 hours, later, and you never see her again, you're fairly sure what that visit was.
Interesting. So you don't call the cops, though. Even if that's illegal in the state, that's not something that you guys phone in for.
If it was the lady set up at the hotel, we would call the cops. But
okay,
the visitor, it's
got it.
Yeah, I mean, how do you prove what's going on is what's going on?
Right.
So
So that one, I guess, kind of makes sense. People probably even associate that kind of in their minds with that type of potential issue. So that issue aside, prostitution aside, what other criminal behavior do you see?
Most hotels do require all their staff to go through training to spot human trafficking and stuff like that. So
okay. You
do
that's good, because that's actually a huge problem in the U.S. People don't realize this, but all over the world, really, human trafficking is really bad right now.
So it definitely is. There was a person that I know that works at a different hotel where they did call the cops on someone because they were prostituting out their underage daughter, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, you see things like that, you're gonna definitely be like, no, that's definitely not okay. So the cops will be called. The occasional lady visitor, not probably as much. That's going to be.
Right.
I mean, again, it really depends on your hotel and how strong they want to be with that.
Okay. Do you see drug usage at hotels?
The current hotel that I'm at, I see a lot more drug usage than other hotels that I've worked at. Not to say
it's
that
more of a family-centric hotel, right?
It is a family-centric hotel, but our rates got to be the same as. So we're a nicer hotel. I want to state this: we are a nicer hotel, but when your rates get close to like a Super 8 or a Motel 6, which aren't really known for high quality. Not that they're bad hotels; they're not known for high quality things. It brings in people that have drug problems and things like that. So it's one of the reasons
they can then afford that nicer quality hotel.
They're like, I'm going to go to the nice hotel and get high versus the Motel 6. So it's one of the things that management looks at, like, we're getting clientele that we don't want at the hotel. So do we need to raise our rates? Is that going to drop off people that we do want to come in? So there's a lot of thought that goes into it before we change rates to try to drive that business out. But this current hotel, I've seen the police much more often than I wanted to see the police. We'll just say that.
Okay.
And then drug people aren't necessarily very smart. One guy hid his stash in the trash in our laundry room, and then housekeeping was cleaning and was emptying the trash. And they're like, why is there this tackle box or makeup box in the trash? And we pull it out, and it's got tons of pills and crystal meth in it and stuff like that. So then we call the cops and have them come pick it up and take care of it.
Nice.
Housekeeping definitely sees a lot more of the not cool aspects of stuff.
Sure.
Like needles. They'll find needles occasionally. And granted, sometimes it's going to be, someone's diabetic, they're going to have a needle, but usually the diabetic person isn't going to be throwing a needle in their curtains. There's.
Oh my. Right.
How often do employees get like accidental needle sticks, and does the hotel cover like HIV prophylaxis and things like that in that situation?
We would cover that because we're required to. I mean, if I don't know how often they get sticks. They're usually pretty savvy about not being like getting stuck. Like there's definitely a certain way you strip a room of all its bedding and things like that and go through to do that so you don't get stuck with needles and things like that. And also generally if someone had a party in the room with that, it's really destroyed, so you glove up and you're much more careful with how you clean the room.
This might be a good time to mention also that I know in the past, so you can tip your cleaning staff, right? You leave some money in the room for them.
Uh-huh.
So this would be a scenario where you can see they have to go through a lot. It might be worth leaving, even if you're not the guy that's leaving the needles. Recognize that your cleaning staff has to go through a lot of garbage, and so giving them a little tip might be a nice way to say thank you.
It definitely is nice for our housekeeping for that to happen. I mean, housekeeping is a crap job. I'm not gonna lie, it's not a fun job. But yeah, so when the housekeepers do get tips, it is really nice for them, makes their day a little bit better. I mean, even if it's just a few bucks or $5, it really does make their day that much nicer, especially if you trash the room.
Then leave some money.
Leave a freaking tip, because it takes those rooms up, and they're paid on how many things they do at a certain standard time. So if you have a huge messing room and it takes them longer, they don't get paid for that.
Interesting. Okay. Well, that's good to know.
Don't be a jerk and leave a huge messy room, or if you do, leave a tip to help compensate that for them.
Okay. All right, 2 more questions before we sign off then here, Cameron. So one is, everyone's gone to a hotel, pulled out their luggage and been like, oh, I forgot the toothpaste, or I forgot my toothbrush. And most people know, okay, like, oh, well, that's something that the front desk might have. What do you guys have as far as like if we forget something, or if if a customer needs help with something, what can the front desk provide that you might not know about, I guess?
It's going to be according to the brand. There are brand standards that every hotel is supposed to have. So most hotels are required to have razors, toothbrushes, and toothpaste, shower caps, and maybe something else. That's pretty much what they're required. After that, then it just depends on the brand or the management company.
So if let's say I came with something that needed batteries, I didn't have batteries, is that something that you ever have at the front desk?
We do have batteries, and it would be a really good reason for us to give out batteries, because batteries are really expensive.
Okay, sure.
It also depends on the hotel. If the guest is paying $500 a night, like when I was at one of my resorts, you're going to give them some batteries, because they've paid for that service. They've, you've paid more money. The hotel's going to cater more to you.
That makes sense.
But most places you're going to have that. I mean, at my current hotel, we have complimentary, razors, shaving cream, deodorant, earplugs, headphones, combs, toothpaste, toothbrushes, shower caps, shampoo, conditioner, mouthwash, extra body bars up there. Yeah, we have quite the assortment up that we have available for our guests.
Okay.
And also, just so you know, most of those complimentary items will be in the sundry shop next to the front desk for an exuberant price.
So if you want to pay more, you can go to the shop.
Yeah, you can go to the shop. Like, there was a person that just needed a toothbrush the other day, and we sell little packets that have toothbrush, toothpaste, and mouthwash, and they sell for $5. Or you could stop by the front desk and get it all for free.
Okay.
I mean, and that's if they're stocked up. They're supposed to be stocked up. Sometimes they run out of stock, and then you're kind of stuck on paying it. But if I was missing my toothbrush, I'm not going to pay $5 for a little travel toothbrush. I'm just going to throw some toothpaste on my finger and just brush my teeth that way.
Take care of it, right? Okay, so then last question for me. We'll see if Johnny wants to follow up with anything. But so let's say I'm done with my stay, 1 night, 2 nights, 3 years, whatever it might be, and now it's checkout time. I always feel when I'm in a hotel, like if I'm not out of the room and have gone to the front desk to check out by 10 or 11 or whatever it might be, I'm going to get charged an extra night. Is that what happens? So if I don't make contact with the front desk when I check out, am I charged again, or is it just automatically assumed I'm out of the room? And if housekeeping finds me in the room, do I then get charged, or how does that work?
Yes, to all those questions. It depends on the hotel and what the management company does. That's going to be my cop out answer for everything.
Okay.
Checkout time. Because people can ask for late checkouts. Depending on the hotel, you'll either pay a small fee for a late checkout, or it can be complimentary. That's another aspect. Joining membership clubs at the hotel, you're usually guaranteed later checkouts as you move up in the tiers to later and later checkouts. So, which is cool for that. Sucks for housekeeping, but cool for you people. So it depends on what's going on. So we will charge a fee after 2 p.m. if you want to stay later than that, which is going to be a half-day rate of whatever the rate is for the day.
Okay, so that's if you overstay your checkout, even if you didn't ask for a late checkout, but you didn't check out until later, you would then be charged a half-day rate.
We would charge you probably a half-day rate.
Okay.
And so our checkout's at 11. So one of the jobs our front desk people is to do, you're going to give people like a half hour because you're not going to be a full church of people. Sometimes it just takes longer to go. And so we'll call all the rooms that haven't checked out for us. And if we don't get an answer, generally what we do is we just check them out. But if housekeeping then goes into the room and sees that you're in there, that's when we initiate. We'll either charge you, or do you have another reservation and that's why your stuff is still in the room and we just didn't realize that. So I mean, there's a couple different things that why someone might still be there. But if you're passed out on the bed because you had partied too much, yeah, we're going to charge you for another night.
Is it like more polite for a guest to go to the front desk and check out? Like, is that something that we should be doing every time we check out? Is that nicer for hotel staff?
It is. It is much more convenient for hotel staff to stop by the front desk, and let us know that you are leaving, or you're leaving, or you're going to be leaving in a little bit. It is very nice, but also in this digital age of awesomeness, a lot of this stuff can just be done on your phone or on the TV. So you can check out on the TV or check out on your phone, and that will just go to the system and just say that you're checked out.
Okay, cool.
Nice.
So if you have that ability to do that, then just leave your keys in the room and just go. I never realized how much hotel keys are, but hotel keys are fairly expensive.
That's what I was about to ask. So you shouldn't. You're not going to be charged if you don't return the hotel keys, or are you?
Charged, and I don't know who started this rumor that all your information is on your hotel key. That's a complete lie.
So did you say you won't be charged, or you will?
You won't.
Okay.
I have not worked in a hotel that would charge you for having a key.
Okay. But by matter of courtesy, you should leave your keys or turn them in when you check out. Don't take your keys, even if they're not going to charge you. It's something that they'll reuse, and it costs the hotel money. So.
Yeah, I mean, for a box of keys, how many are keys in our box? I don't know. There's like 1,000 keys in a box, and they charge the hotel like $60 to $80 for that box.
Okay, so it's not incredibly expensive, but
it's not incredibly expensive. But I mean, if you figure you have 100 rooms, you give each room 2 cards, that's 200 keys. 5 days, that's 1,000 keys.
Right.
So it's not a lot, but it can add up pretty dang fast if people don't turn them in.
Okay. Well, good to know.
Just some quick math there. Just
Okay. Well, that's my last question for now. I'm sure we could spend some more time on a few of the other interesting things here, but for this podcast, I think we're going to wrap up unless Johnny has any final burning questions.
Want to ask the biggest thing that's happened to me or anything like that? Or
well, you already mentioned the crime issues. I'm sure that you could share stories for days. Maybe we should have another hotel story podcast. So if you're interested in a hotel story podcast, let us know, because I'm sure Cameron could give us all kinds of interesting stories about police and or quirky people and or weird things that have happened. So that would be an interesting follow-up to this one. But
I have a pretty interesting story about a hotel too, so I think that would be fun.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to do that one again then sometime.
As a listener, I'm pushing you to do that.
Okay, we got our first comment live by one of the co-hosts. How weird.
Just as a caveat for that, if you want some fun hotel things, Reddit Tales of the Front Desk is a Reddit page. There's lots of interesting things there. Also, I was working the overnight at my hotel a couple days ago, and I had a scammer fire me. So that's
fun.
Fun.
Interesting.
Yeah. So just some little tidbits, we can go into all sorts of things.
I'm sure. That is crazy. All right. Well, yeah. So stay tuned. I know that currently we already owe our listener base a standard unit podcast, a history 1940s, and we've owed them that for like 9 months. There may have been other ones we've teased and not yet delivered on. They're coming. You just stay tuned. We got the hotel story podcast then in the future. This is more of a hotel information podcast, but we're grateful for everyone that's tuned in. Thanks, Cameron, for all the information, and Matt and Johnny for chiming in here as well. And we will see you guys we won't see you, and we actually won't know that you exist, except that we will see you download our podcast. So go ahead and do that. Grab a couple more of our podcasts, and we'll be back again in a week or two.
Yep. Push that like button, subscribe, whatever it is, and leave comments which one you want us to do. So
that's right. All right. Thanks.